sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Hi, kids.
You look familiar. I'm gonna let you come on up.
I didn't mean to like get in the middle of your lesson, but I just gotta introduce my friends to some friends and my other friends to some new friends. Guys, let me introduce Freddie. Hi, guys. Can I give him a round of applause? Hi. And over here we've got Danny.
Hey, and here we got Eli.
And you know me. I'm Mr. Q.
So this is church?
So this is church. Well, sort of.
Is it like supposed to be in a building?
Well, usually we have it in a building. Things are a little different right now.
Yeah, what's that for over there then?
That's usually where we have church, yeah.
Oh, okay, so we don't always have it outside.
Yeah, but it's not the, okay, so church is not the actual building. Church is the people, the kids.
But
where's all the adults?
Yeah, there's a bunch of little torps around here. I mean, kids.
Themselves here.
Hey, does everybody love the Bible?
Yeah.
You guys love the Bible?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's really nice to teach the kids the Bible stories that they can understand while the adults are learning college Christian stuff. So we have children's class.
Wait, are you saying we're not smart enough to be in an adults class? Is that why you brought us here?
Okay, no, let me clear it up. I've been going to church with the kids for years because, like, I'm one of their teachers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so I thought that I would introduce you to my real friends.
Yeah.
The little guys.
We're super excited to be here. We've never been to church before.
Yeah. Guys, Freddie and Danny have never been to church before. Do you think they'll like it?
Yeah.
Are you happy to be back?
Yeah.
What are we supposed to do now?
Yeah, like
What do we do?
You said something about songs and games. Like, what do we do? Like, we just sit here and look
Well,
at you?
just take a seat, and I'll just introduce things to the kids real quick.
Okay.
But we got some stuff planned for you, okay?
All right.
But, guys, I have been stuck in the house way too long. What about you?
No, nobody's doing what I want.
Yeah?
It's okay.
Oh, no, you liked it, huh?
No.
Cartoons and video games.
I like it.
What about you kids? What did you miss most when you were stuck in quarantine? What did you miss most? Pretend I have a microphone. You missed having your friends next to you. I'm going to have a pretend microphone. What about you? Do I have a boy to tell me something they missed most when they were in quarantine? What did you miss most? You missed church. Ooh, I like it. We're getting to that. A lady. What did you miss most?
Outside.
Outside? Yeah, I think you were still allowed to go outside, but couldn't do much. What did you miss, bud? You missed your teachers? What teachers? I thought your mom taught you. What, you mean me? And the church teachers? Thanks, man. Anybody else? I got one right here. One eager hand right here I got to call on, and then we're going to move on. What did you miss most when you were stuck in quarantine? Candy! I like honest. Freddie, what did you miss most?
Mr. Q, I missed being able to go into the toilet paper aisle and see toilet paper.
We know.
I was so scared that we were going to be out of toilet paper.
Hey, how many of you know how Freddie feels about toilet paper? All right.
Mr. Q's toilets are clogged.
How about by a show of hands
Okay.
and 3 cheers, you tell me that you missed church, okay? Show your hands. Did you miss church? All right, well then, you know how to do 3 cheers? Have any of you ever done 3 cheers before?
Yeah.
Hip, hip, hooray. All right, hip, hip, hooray. Okay, but I have a Bible story for you guys today about some people who went through something very similar to what we've gone through. And when they finally came back together, it changed everything. But before I can tell that Bible story, I think we have some games, don't we?
Wait, you play games at church?
Ready?
You play games at
We
church?
do a lot of stuff at church.
Can I play?
Games. Yeah, you can play. Although you're a little big, so don't be too competitive. Remember that time you knocked me over?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I knocked you over a few times.
A few times. All right. God told us to go to church. Who told us not to go to church?
The government.
The government. Everyone say government.
Government.
Government can be real good. Government can be real bad. Luckily, our government's not that bad as King Ahaz. You know, guys, we're not the first ones that weren't able to go to church because of the government. Okay? There once was a king in Judah. This was after the country got split in 2. How many of you remember that? After King Solomon, he had 2 sons, and the country got split in 2, and there was Judah and there was Israel. You remember that? Yeah. And in Judah, there was a city Maybe you've heard of it before. It was called Jerusalem. Have you heard of Jerusalem?
Yes.
And that's where what? There was something very special in Jerusalem. Tell me what it was. There was a very special building in Jerusalem. Do you remember what it was? The temple. And what did they do at the temple? What did they do at the temple, Joshua?
They praise God.
They worshiped God. That's right. That was their place. So it was kind of like church, huh? Right. Now the people that came inside the temple were more important than the temple, huh? Just like I was explaining to Freddie and Danny, the building's not that important. It's all the people. Well, King Ahaz, he was a bad king.
Big chunk of this.
Are you listening?
Yeah.
He was a bad king.
Okay, I took a big chunk of this.
And he hated God. And he hated the temple. So one day he went inside, and down the long corridor of the temple there was these beautiful torches on the walls, and he took his snuffing tool and he went pss, 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 and he snuffed out each and every light. And he told the priests, he said, "Get out!" And they could see the evil in his eyes, so they ran away from him. And when he was sure there was no one left in there, he started flipping over tables and pushing over things and making a huge mess inside the temple. And then the last thing he did, he walked outside of the temple and he took those big doors and he slammed them shut. And he put a chain around them and he locked them and he said, "No more! Nobody's going inside the temple anymore. No more worshiping God." Terrible king, huh? "Instead, you're gonna worship the idols with me," he said. I don't know if he laughed, he probably laughed. And he said, "Over there on that corner, I want an idol." And he had his men take brass and build an idol. "Oh, and I want one right there too." And he had his men take silver and build an idol. "Ah, and there's gotta be one right down there." And he had his men take gold and build an idol. And there was one on every corner of the street, all over Jerusalem. Can you imagine? And it didn't stop there. It didn't stop there. Because Jerusalem was just the capital. When all the other people heard what the king did and what the king said, that he said, "No more going inside the temple. No more worshiping God. I don't care what the people say. I'm the king. Ha ha ha. And I'm going to make you worship idols with me. And it'll be a lot more fun, okay?" Then the other people, what did they do? They started doing it too. Building idols in their own cities, shutting down their own churches. No more worshiping God. The king's request had come true. No more worshiping God. No more going inside the temple. Just obey the king, the government. But where was God during all this? Was he changed?
No.
Nope. Was he asleep?
No.
Nope. What about the people? Well, they were scared. Do people get scared? Hold on. Let me ask you again. Do people get scared?
Yes.
Have you been paying attention the last few weeks? Do people get scared? Yes. They get so scared, so easy of everything, especially if the government says it. So all the people freaked out. They weren't going to say no to the king. They were not going to go inside the temple. They were going to do whatever he said because they were scared. And the more scared they got, the more separated they got. They didn't go to each other's houses anymore. They didn't see each other at the temple and say, "Hi, how you doing? I brought you a cake." They weren't really close anymore. I want you to say that with me, okay? Say, the people weren't close anymore. They were separated. Let's say it one more time. The people were separated. They weren't close anymore. So not only did they not worship God anymore at the temple, they couldn't even go in the temple. It really affected their whole lives, and they really weren't close together anymore. And that was exactly what the king wanted, because if he kept the people separate, then they would never tell him no, because they were scared. And you know what the people needed? They needed God, that's right. And you know what they needed to do about it? They needed to worship him. But that had only ever happened before when they got together. So what did the people need to do? They needed to get together. But who was going to start that? Who was going to get the people back together?
Wait a minute, Mr. Q?
Oh, Danny,
Wait a minute.
that's not normally how we do it in church, but I love questions. Come on up, come on up.
Oh.
Everybody, you guys know Danny.
Hi.
I think Danny has a
Sorry
question.
to interrupt. I have a question.
Yeah.
I was reading a verse in the Bible. You kids probably have never heard this verse before.
I wouldn't be surprised. Hold on. I wouldn't be surprised if they had. These are smart kids. Just saying.
Oh, let me read this verse. It's Hebrews chapter 13. Obey them that have the rule over you and submit yourselves.
I heard that. We heard that. We heard that.
No way.
Yes.
For they watch for your souls.
Yeah.
Raise your hands. How many of you guys know that verse?
Oh.
So, but I'm so glad you discovered the verse, Danny, for the first time. What did it make you think of?
Well, it seems like we should obey those who are watching over us and watching over the church. Maybe like the pastor.
Yeah.
But how is one guy going to pastor all of these people?
That is a great question, and that's actually the rest of the story. Do you want to hear the rest of the Bible story?
Yes.
Do you guys want to hear the rest of the story?
Yeah.
So, like I said, the people were listening to who now?
Okay.
The king, the government. But was he worth listening to? No. And that Bible verse tells us to listen to our authorities, right? Which can get a little confusing, because wasn't the king their authority? Well, who's their real authority?
God.
God. Does that make sense, Danny? God's their real authority. And if the king is listening to God, then he is their real authority, huh?
Danny said it doesn't make sense.
It will in a minute. Let me remind you. Simon, who took the people through the Red Sea? Elijah, close. No worries. No. Who took the people through the Red Sea?
Noah.
Almost. That was a different body of water. That was the whole earth.
Elisha.
Nope.
Elisha.
Sir,
God.
God did, yes. But who was in the front of the line?
Moses.
Moses. Do you know how many people, Danny,
We're in the church, kids. Don't
were in the desert behind Moses? Like, have you ever been in a really long line?
Yeah.
This is the longest line you've ever seen in your life. Historians who study the Bible estimate that there was about 6 million. Say 6 million. No. Say 6 million. That's a lot of people, guys. That's a ton of people. That's no Walmart line. That's more like a Home Depot line. Okay?
Costco line.
And guess who was in the front of the line leading all those people? One guy named Moses. Do you know why he was able to lead all the people? Because he was following. Because he was following who?
God.
He was following the Lord. That's right. So when you have a leader, Danny brought up the pastor. When you have a leader like a pastor, who you know is following God, then we can follow him. Is it possible in a terrible situation like Israel was in after King Ahaz, is it possible for just one person to turn it all around?
Yes.
I mean, there was millions of people in Israel and a wicked king with an army, and he had already done tons of damage. And by the way, we're going to skip some time. 20 years. It had been 20 years like this since the time that Ahaz closed the doors, and what did he say? No more going in the temple. No more worshiping God. Sorry. To now, it had been 20 years. That's a long time. That's longer than a lot of you have been alive. Is it possible for a situation that messed up for one person to fix it, Danny? Is it possible, kids, for one person to fix it?
No.
Ahaz had a son. Ahaz died. Ahaz was no longer the king. Who becomes the king now?
The sun.
His son. And his son's name was Hezekiah. Say Hezekiah.
Hezekiah.
I'm gonna say it again. I like that name. Hezekiah. Oh, it gives me chills. Like when they say Mufasa. I want you to say it like they say Mufasa. Okay? Say Hezekiah. And he put fear in the heart of the enemies because he was only one guy, but guess who he was following?
God.
He was following God. And he took a look around and he said, I might just be one guy, but I can turn this all around. So he, on his very first week of being king, I read the story. It says in the first month of the first year that King Hezekiah was king, in the very first week, he went to the temple. And do you know what he had in his hands?
The Bible. The Bible.
Not a Bible. Nope.
A key.
He had something powerful. He had a lockbuster. I don't know what kind of lockbuster he used, but he went up to those doors, and that lock that his very own father, the evil King Ahaz, who had said those terrible words that scare you, and he looked at that lock, and he busted it, and the chains went on the ground, and the dust went in the air, because it was so long that there was dust covering everything. And he took a flame and he lit the torches on either side of the door, and then he pulled with all his might, and he pulled those big gold doors open, and he said, "We are gonna have church!" I thought you'd be more excited. Hummingbird gets you excited. He said, "We're going inside the temple." Yeah. And he took that flame and he lit one torch, another torch, until the whole hallway was lit. And guess what there was everywhere? Do you know what there was? Cobwebs. So he's like, "I got this. I know how to clean." And he took a duster and he started knocking down cobwebs, and he was sweeping the floor, and he was probably whistling. Gonna have church.
He didn't
Swept
sweep.
all the dust and cobwebs out of the temple all by himself. The king fixed the doors, turned on the lights, knocked out the dust, and he said, "I don't know how far this is going to go, but I hope it goes all the way to the ocean, because Israel stretched all the way to the sea. And I hope it goes all the way to the Jordan River, because their nation went all the way to the river, and all the way to the desert in the south, and all the way to the mountains in the north. I hope everybody, by the time this is done, comes back to church." He said, "Right now I'm the only one here. That's okay. Things will change." And he walked outside, and guess who was there? There were some guys. There were some priests. Probably the same priests who King Ahaz had told them, "Get out of here, I'll kill you." And they said, "We're with you." So he took their hands, and they all joined hands, and they probably sang a song and skipped down the street and said, "We're gonna go to church. Nobody's gonna stop us." They were excited. And he said, "You know what, guys? There's only a few of us, but we can do it. Now, I'm not a priest," he said. "I'm not a Levite. I don't know all the customs and traditions, and besides, it's not my birthright to do the church stuff. It's your guys' job. Do you remember how to do it?" They said, "Yeah, I mean, kind of." "Well, we'll find the books, we'll find the scrolls, we'll find the Bible, we'll follow the instructions, and the first thing we got to do is we got to get the church ready." And they said, "Okay, ready for what?" And he said, "For the people." And they said, there are no people. The people worship idols. And they all moved out of town." He said, "That's okay. They will come. If you build it, they will come." And so they went inside, and he told the Levites and the priests, "You got to get the church ready." They spent a week cleaning, bringing out all of the tools and instruments they used for the offerings. And do you guys remember why they did offerings? Why they would kill animals and make the blood come out? Does anybody remember why there had to be blood when they were doing their offerings at their church services? As a symbol for Jesus, who would someday share his blood to take away our sins and give us eternal life. That's what the whole temple was about, one person, Jesus. And they knew that. They had to get it ready. One day they all come into his throne room and they're like, "King, it's done. The temple is ready for the people, I guess." And he said, "No, don't be upset. Be excited. They're going to come. I've been busy all day. My wrist hurts. Oh, it hurts so bad." "Why does your wrist hurt, King?" "I've been writing letters." "You've been writing letters?" "Yeah, lots of them." "How many letters?" "Oh, thousands. Thousands of letters." "Yeah, with my own hand." "And what do the letters say?" They say, "We're going to have Passover. We haven't had Passover in 20 years. We have not gone to church and gotten close together in 20 years, guys. We got to get together. So I'm going to send my messengers, and they're going to go to every city in Judah and every city in Israel, and they're going to invite everybody back. And if we can fit everybody in Jerusalem, fantastic. We are going to have the biggest get-together that has ever been had in this place before, because we are going back to church." Do you think the Levites and the priests believed the king? They started to believe. They're like, "This could work. It's been so long. We want that too. So we're going to work super hard." And the messengers, they had to ride camels, horses, whatever they did. They went to every single city. And do you know what the reaction was from the people?
Yeah.
Some of the people put their hands on their hips like this. Put your hands on your hips. And throw your head back. And laugh. Is it nice when someone puts their hands on their hips and throws their head back and laughs at you? That's usually not a good sign. Some of the people did that to the messengers. We're not coming back. No way. We like it the way it is. So the messengers went on to other cities. But some of the people, they went like this. Fold your arms. Now lift one arm up and stroke your chin. And say, Yeah, some of the people did this. Is this a good sign when people do this? It means they're thinking about it. And so they said, come back later, we'll think about it. Okay, some of the people though. Some of the people, everybody stand up. Don't get too carried away now, all right? Church outdoors, won't anybody get hurt. All right. Make a little space, okay? Because some of the people went like this. Can you do that?
No.
No.
That's fine.
Some of you hurt yourselves.
Ow.
Okay, you don't have to do it yourselves. Go ahead and take a seat. But is it a good sign when people do that when you say something? Yeah, it means they're excited. You know, some of them probably even went like this. We're going back to church. When does it start? They're like, it's in like 2 weeks. And they're like, oh, let down. 2 weeks. They were excited. And they got on their horses and their camels and they packed their stuff and they headed to Jerusalem. And the king, he was standing on the palace looking at the temple and he started to see in the distance from the north, all the way from the mountains. What did he see?
The Lord.
People, yeah. So he turned and he looked to the south. I wonder if anybody will come from the edges of the desert, he thought. And on the horizon he saw little specks of the people. So he looked west to the sea and he said, I wonder if the tribe of Asher is going to show up from the sea. And he saw in the distance people coming down the road. So he looked east to the river Jordan. And he's like, I wonder if Manasseh will show up this time. Come on. He had to wait. He had to do the double fist wait. Oh, yeah, specks in the distance. They're coming. People were coming from all over. Pretty soon you couldn't even find room in Jerusalem. Everybody was crammed. And for 7 days, they did nothing but have church and have sacrifices because the people said it's been so long since we got what? Together. It's been so long since we got together and worshiped God. And they had the time of their lives worshiping God. In fact, they had so much fun. Are you guys ready for this? The Passover feast in their custom was to last 7 days, okay? 7 days. And then they would all go home, right? The people had such a good time that when day number 8 came and they should all be packing up to go home, they all walked to the palace and they were like, excuse me, King Hezekiah. And he said, yeah, we think we might like to stay for another week. And he said, really? What? Nobody's ever done that before. They're like, yeah.
Mr. Q. But then you gotta do his thing, so I think I can do
yeah, that's all right. I love questions.
I love church. I love all your friends. They're my friends now, and I love that we get together and hang out and worship God together. But I'm really scared. You said that the government told us to
His
stop.
last name is Fearful.
They said the government told us to stop. What if they come back and they tell us to stop again? And then we gotta close the doors again, and then we don't get to have church again, and then I'm gonna have no friends, and I'm gonna have to stay at your house again, and it kind of smells like cheese. I don't know what the cheese is, but I don't know where it came from. You never had any cheese in your house. You're lactose intolerant, and I'm never gonna get to go to church again.
Oh, damn. The sheer number of things that make you afraid crack me up.
Mr. Q.
But that's actually what comes next in the story. Do you want to hear the rest of the story?
Okay.
Yeah. Do you guys want to hear the rest of the story? Evil King Ahaz wasn't the only evil king in the world. Did you know that? Right. This was not the last time that the government was going to come to the temple and say, you can't go inside the temple and worship God anymore. No. In fact, it was like the next day. What? So they said, we want to stay for another week. Jerusalem is packed full of people now. Basically, most of the nation, a lot of the nation, except for the ones that went, and the ones that went, they were all there. and so full of people that evil King Sennacherib, okay?
Sennacherib.
Yeah, because he was so hungry all the time that he always wanted to snack on a rib. It's the best I got. For you to remember his funny name, say Sennacherib.
Sennacherib.
Sennacherib. He was from Assyria. Say Assyria. And he really, really, really didn't like them getting back together.
I told you this was gonna happen.
Freddie really didn't like them worshiping God. And he was super upset that they had opened up the temple. And he had a really, really big what?
Idea.
Army. It was a big idea from his small brain to use his huge army to attack Jerusalem, Freddie, and force them to go home or die. Get out of the temple or there will be blood. No more worshiping God. Instead, worship me and my gods. That was King Snack-on-a-Rib's plan. And he was as evil as Ahaz or worse.
Now I'm scared and hungry.
Happens.
At lunchtime, you won't be hungry.
Pay attention to him.
It's
So, King Sennacherib comes to the gates and finds them locked.
No.
And finds a friendly, happy face pop over the edge of the wall. Like this. Whoop. Guess who it is? It's King Hezekiah. Hezekiah. And he looks down and says, "Hey, Snack-on-a-Rib, how you doing?" And he says, you know, like, "I'm gonna huff and I'm gonna puff and I'm gonna blow your house down," something like that. And King Hezekiah goes, do it. Hands on the hips, head back, laugh. That's not gonna happen. We're not gonna blow our house down. And Snack-on-a-Rib says, "I know all the people are in there. And you can't last forever. You don't have enough food. You don't have enough water. And you don't have an army." And Hezekiah says, "Hold on a second. Let me check those statistics." Back under the wall, and he looks, and then he pops back up. Whoop! You're right. We don't have enough food. We don't have enough water, and I don't have an army. But I got something you don't got, bud. And Snack-on-a-Rib says, "What's that?" And he says, "We got God." Thank you. We got God. And we ain't scared. And nobody's going to tell us to get out of the temple and not to have church anymore. And Snack-on-a-Rib, So he goes from this to this. That's got a point. And then he thinks to himself, wait a second. I'm not new to this taking over country stuff. I've been doing this for a long time. And my dad before me. That's what Assyrians do. Or I wouldn't be called Snack-on-a-Rib. I've done this before, he says. Hey, Hezekiah, you think your God is so tough? I got news for you, pal. I've been to... He names some countries. I really am at a loss for names of countries in that part of the world right now. I've been to that place over there. And they had a God. Yeah, big, fierce statue. And they said, "You're not going to come in here and tell us what to do. Our God will fight for us." And you know what I did? I beat them all up and knocked their statue over. Ha ha. Yeah, that's right. And then I went over to the... whatchamacallit, that was a kingdom too, and they had a big God. In fact, they had 3, and I knocked all their heads off too. And your God is no different from any of the other gods that I told the people, don't worship them anymore, worship me and my gods or die. I've taken over basically the whole world, except for you guys, you're the last ones. So there, I ain't scared either. Ha ha ha. And Hezekiah said, "Man,
Bada boom, bada boom, bada 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 boom.
Sennacherib, because our God is
I do
different.
love this song.
He's the real God. And before this is all over, you're going to be weeping and crying all the way home. Kind of like 3 little pigs. Or is that piggies when they count your toes? Anyhow, you guys know the kids' songs better than I do. Hezekiah, he pops back under the wall. And guess who shows up? I don't know how you're going to guess this. Because unless you're like a historian, you wouldn't know. But somebody shows up and taps on Hezekiah's shoulder.
An angel.
And it's none other than Isaiah the prophet. Yeah. He's like, "Hey, Hezekiah, buddy!" And they hug, and Hezekiah's like, "I didn't know you were here." And he's like, "Yeah, I heard we were having to get together, so I came." He's like, "You're Isaiah." And he's like, you know what we need to do in this situation, Hezekiah? First, we need to come together. And Hezekiah said, well, look around. It started out small. It started out just me, and then me and a few of the priests. And then next thing you know, wha-boom, we're all here. We're all back together, worshiping God together. Isaiah said, perfect. And then the next thing we need to do is we need to pray together. And Hezekiah says, great idea. And Isaiah says, Hezekiah, do you really believe that nothing can stop the church? Isn't that your question, Freddie?
Yeah.
Kids, do you really believe that nothing can stop the church?
Yes. Yes.
What about Ahaz? He slammed the doors closed and locked them.
Yeah.
And made the people scared.
Yes.
But it didn't last, did it? He closed the temple doors, but did he stop the church?
No.
No. And you think snack on a rib can stop the church? Do you think Satan can stop the church?
No.
And excuse me for a moment, do you think Governor Newsom can stop the church?
No.
No one can stop the church. Satan can't stop the church. In fact, God tells us that he designed the church to go up to Satan's door and knock on his door and say, ha 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 ha. Yeah. And Isaiah said, Hezekiah, I'm so glad you believe it, but you're about to see it happen. Isaiah said, I can feel it in my bones. And Hezekiah said, wait, isn't that Ezekiel? And he said, no, wrong time. I can feel it in my bones. This is going to happen, and you're going to see it with your own eyes. He's like, you shouldn't have gotten that.
I don't know anything about the Bible.
He said, let's pray right now. So Isaiah and Hezekiah, up on top of the wall, with snack on a rib watching, just grinding his teeth, they prayed a simple prayer, and they said, God, don't let anything stop us from getting together. Don't let anything stop us from worshiping you. Let your will be done. Hezekiah was like, is that all we pray? And Isaiah was like, that's good enough. It doesn't have to be long. And right then, do you guys hear that? Oh, you have to be totally quiet if you want to hear it. No, you have to be super quiet if you want to hear it. That's the noise that Isaiah and Hezekiah heard. Total silence. I'm not kidding. Hezekiah went whoop, popped over the wall, and do you know what he saw?
Nothing.
The entire army dead. Every soldier. Only one person left. Snack on a rib himself, running like this. The Bible says that right after Isaiah and Hezekiah prayed, God sent an angel and wiped out the Assyrian army. And they just fell down dead. And Snack a rib, guess what happened to him? He ran home to all his buddies, and they were like, hey, how'd the war go? Did you take over Jerusalem? And he was like, no, we had some complications. We ran into a really big God. And his friends killed him for being totally useless. And he died too.
Tough luck.
Who stops the church?
Nobody.
Come on, guys. Who stops the church?
Nobody.
Nobody. Nobody stops the church.
Oh my gosh, Shannon.
Right. Are you pumped up yet?
Yeah.
Are you encouraged yet? Are you happy to be back together? So let's review a few things. It can get real bad sometimes. Are you listening? It can get real bad sometimes. And sometimes the government can be the one to do it. And I'm not saying that our government did that or that's what they're trying to do. It's just the point that sometimes it can get real dark for God's church and for God's people. And people get scared super easy of everything all the time. But it actually only takes one person, like Hezekiah, like Moses. Who built the ark?
Noah.
Thank you. I'm glad for the repeat. Like the song. Who built the ark? Brother Noah built the ark. Right? For like 100 years, actually. He built the ark. But who was he listening to? God. Who led the people through the sea? Moses. Who built the temple? Solomon. Right? Who kicked out the Philistines? David. But who were they following?
God.
God. That's what made them good leaders. So you can follow a good leader when you know that leader is following God. And it only takes one person to turn it all around, just like Hezekiah. And then when the people, are you listening? When the people gather together and worship God, there's God's power. And especially when they pray. And they're determined not to stop. And then you see the angel of the Lord do things only the angel of the Lord can do. And hopefully it doesn't involve mass death, but in this story it did. But that's the point, kids, all right? And for us it's no different. What can stop the church?
Nothing.
All right. Why don't you close your eyes and bow your heads? We're going to pray.
He's the one. It's him. We don't have to worry, and nothing is going to take that away. I'm excited to be a part of the home church. I'm excited to be here right now with you guys, and I'm thinking I'm going to stick around for a long time. I might change my name to Ryan. I'm so excited. I'm going to be here forever.
Can we call you Mr. Ryan?
Yeah, Mr. Ryan is what he's calling me from
Ryan.
now on.
Mr. Ryan.
Changing my name, yeah.
Did we change your mind at all, Danny?
So no more am I fearful. I'm Mr. Ryan.
Danny is not doubtful.
Nope.
Anymore. What's my name?
Can we call you
Mr. Matt.
Matt?
Yeah, Matt, that has a nice ring to it.
Mr. Matt.
Yeah.
Mr. Matt! Mr. Matt! Mr. Matt!
Do I get to do it too?
And wait a second, you have gotten so wise. Oswald, we got to change that name. You've gotten so wise, you've almost
It's a
graduated
fantastic name.
to Mr. I don't know, Miles sounds like it, because you're miles ahead of us as far as wisdom.
Wow.
So Mr. Miles it is. Mr. Miles! Mr. Miles! Mr. Miles! So no longer are we Mr. Q, Freddie, and Danny, but we're Mr. Ryan, Mr. Matt, and Mr. Miles. We're here forever. We're so excited to be back in church. Nothing's going to stop us.
All right.